24th. A quorum is not present, but we're going to plow forward anyways. There'll eventually be one. And the Minnesota Senate Education Policy Committee will now come to order. Today we have a full agenda with one presentation at first and then two bills in front of the committee today. First, we will be hearing from Josiah Litant about P20 partnership, and then the two bills, one Senator Kunesh. Oh my God, hi. I thought that was coming out of the mic. Wow, okay. Sorry. One, Senator Kunesh's Pelsby bill, and then Senator Westlin's bill on cardiac emergency response plans. So, but first up is P20 partnership. Josiah Litant, if you'd care to introduce yourself for the record, make sure you sign in. And welcome to the committee, and we're looking forward to your testimony.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Josiah Litant, and I have the great pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Minnesota P20 Education Partnership. Well, Senators, thank you for the time today. I'm excited to tell you a bit more about the partnership. We'll be highlighting our recent legislative report, which you have in front of you, and highlighting some of our work last year and for the year ahead. I thought I would start today briefly just explaining what the P20 Education Partnership is, for those who may be less familiar with our work. And you should have a copy of the slides as well. And so you can see that we were codified into statute in 2009. So the partnership was established to create a seamless system of education that maximizes achievements of all students from early childhood through elementary, secondary, and post-secondary education. And I would add that we also focus on workforce development while promoting the efficient use of financial and human resources. So the partnership really is a coalition made up of education and education-aligned leaders from across our state, focusing on the entirety of what we call the learner lifespan. Our statute also includes some language outlining our membership, including legislative representation. We do have bipartisan and bicameral representation on the partnership, which is very important to our work. And our take on this is that the partnership really is an intermediary. We're not directly serving communities, we're working with folks who are. And though the statute says that we are seamless, we like to talk about it in terms of our work is building stronger seams, right? So we have organizations, we have different age groups across the state, different agencies doing this work. The P20's focus is to help strengthen those seams, or in fact be the seams to help tie us together across all of the learner lifespan. I will not read through this slide, but just so everyone can see, these are our members. As of right now, they are also listed in our report and on our website. Per our statute, they are statewide education invested parties or education-aligned groups. For example, groups working like the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce with workforce and workforce development. So you can see we have a broad array of members at the table. They are represented by their senior-most leader or that person's designee as we really focus at a high level on our work. I thought it would be helpful before I dive into some of our accomplishments for last year to talk about how do we talk about this work at the partnership. Our annual report does include our mission and vision statement, but we really talk about the P20 partnership as a multi-sector independent coalition of leaders representing early childhood, K-12, higher education, nonprofits, workforce development, and government. And our view is that the members collaborate to influence change, foster innovation, and advocate for policies influencing and affecting learner success and outcomes from birth through workforce. And that advocacy may come to the legislature. A lot of the time it comes through our members and the conversations that we have at the partnership and the work that they continue on to do. We are currently 26 voting member organizations, agencies, institutions, and legislators. And I have the great privilege of working with an executive committee who helps me lead this work. We rotate our chair every 2 years. Currently, Commissioner Olson at the Office of Higher Education is our chair through this July. And the Minnesota Department of Education Deputy Commissioner Stephanie Graff will become our chair this coming July. The funding for the P20 partnership, which is essentially for our work for me, has been provided through private philanthropy and through the support of several of our P20 partners. I am the executive director and have been in this role for 2 years. Though the partnership has existed for over 15 years, I have been in this role for 2 as our first staff member. So we've really moved from being a coalition to being a coalition with staff support. And so I am based out of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education as my home office and as one of our executive committee members. And I also want to note that in our statute, our 2 state longitudinal data systems, SLEDS and ECLDS, both fall under the same statute. And they are both non-voting members of the partnership, and we collaborate and work closely together, as that obviously that linkage between data and the work we do is so critical. So I'm about to jump into some of our work from the past year and highlight a few of our priorities for this year. I do encourage you, as you are able, to read our annual report, which you have a copy of, and for the public and others here today, it is also on our website and highlights last year and priorities for this year. What I wanted to talk to you about today, and excited to have the time to share this with you, is some of our accomplishments in 2024, first and foremost. Last year, we developed a new set of what we call mission, vision, and commitments for the partnership and the theory of change. Now, I recognize that may not sound like the most exciting thing that we could have done last year, but it's vital and important because as we are moving the partnership forward, it was essential that we came to agreement as members, in addition to our statute, to what we are doing here. What is the work we are trying to affect? How are we trying to work together as a group, representing the wide array of perspectives in education. So we developed that, came to agreement, and passed that, so we are all unified in the work that we're doing. That mission, vision, and commitments is in the end theory of change, are in the annual report. One of the great opportunities I had last year was to conduct informational visits to other state P20s, and that work was funded by the Lumina Foundation through a grant they provided us. Some of you may know in the earlier 2000s, there were over 40
Mr. Litant?
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes, please, Chair.
Welcome, Cortland School. It's nice to see young people show up at our hearing on education, and thanks for showing up, and thank you, Senator Frentz, for allowing them this opportunity as we hear testimony from the executive director of P20. So sorry that I interrupted you, but I just wanted to acknowledge the youth and what this committee is all about. So
absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you need a rear view mirror or something over here. I had no idea that there was a whole audience.
The budget won't allow it.
I'll bring my own next time. So in the early 2000s, over 40 states had P20 partnerships. Today, there are less than 10 states that have formal P20 partnerships. In large part, they were not funded, they were not staffed, sometimes for political reasons, depending on how they were stood up. A lot of them evaporated. So we have sort of created a national cohort of those of us leading these state partnerships, and I had the chance to visit with 5 of them in a diverse array of geographic states with different political leanings, and to learn about the work that our colleagues are doing to help inform how we move forward in Minnesota to take some of those best practices and then figure out what works best here for our state. Some other things that we worked on last year that I wanted to highlight, we're working on something we call credentials of value. This is looking at higher ed credentials, and the P20 had a subcommittee that developed a matrix to help propose a way to determine post-secondary credentials that lead to, for example, family-sustaining wage, that are careers that will be in high demand, and a few other metrics. That report is on our website. And we are currently working with that and gathering feedback on that tool with secondary and post-secondary partners and others to think about how can we help Minnesotans who are looking at a post-secondary credential to understand what the impact of that credential will be in terms of what they can anticipate as a wage and the demand for that type of position or position in that field. So we're continuing to work on that. We also are working on integrated data use and capacity. This is work we had done before and restarted this past year in collaboration with SLEDS and ECLDS, looking at not just our state longitudinal data systems, but how are we connecting data across the state? As we think about all of our different systems, what opportunity do we have in the P20 partnership, not just to connect them, but to be having cross-organizational conversations, thinking about the way we look at data, talk about data, and then use data to prompt action in the partnership. We held what we called a Financial Wellness Education and Access Summit at the University of Minnesota last year. This came out of work that our partnership had done. One of the areas that we really focus on are gaps or transitions. So as we think about the transition from secondary to post-secondary, whatever comes next for someone, whether that's work or higher ed, some sort of higher ed credential, in this case, we were talking about financial access and how bringing together leaders in this space to think about work we could do to increase that wellness and education and access for our learners. And then we continue to work, as we have for particularly the past 2 years I've been in this role, on strengthening our operations, our consistency, our communication, and our connection between members. We have a lot of members who are doing amazing work, all of them are, across the state, and thinking about ways we help them to connect, how we foster those conversations in our space is really important. And so then finally, we continue also building relationships, certainly across the state with our members, but also beyond with other invested parties and across the nation, as we want to make sure that the P20 is aware of current priorities, best practices, emerging practices happening across the country, and bring those back to the partnership to discuss if and how they fit here in Minnesota and what we can learn from them.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Oh. Continue.
Thank you. And finally, I wanted to leave you today with a few highlights for our work this year in 2025. I'm going to skip to the second bullet because it's the most exciting. We just announced this morning that the P20 partnership has received close to $500,000 in private philanthropic support from the ECMC Foundation and the Joyce Foundation to advance our efforts over the next 2 years. This is a really exciting moment for us. Joyce has supported us previously, so it's continued support from them and new support from ECMC, really acknowledging the importance of having a P20 partnership, of this intermediary group focused on all of these connections and really putting our learners at the center of the work and looking at the entirety of their experience with education from birth through the rest of their life. So we will be using these funds to help advance our strategic planning and to further our efforts to deliver on our plans over the next 2 years. We were also selected, jumping back to the first bullet, we recently announced we were selected for what's called the next phase of dual enrollment national cohort. This is a project being led by the College and High School Alliance. 7 states were selected in a competitive process to participate. And the focus of this work is to develop a state vision for dual enrollment. Minnesota, of course, boasts the oldest state policy architecture for dual enrollment. Like many states, though, we do not have an articulated statewide vision for what we are trying to do with dual enrollment. And so we will be, with coaching and support from the College and High School Alliance over the next 2 years, working to develop a vision. This is a highly participatory process that we will be looking to connect with folks all across the state. This is not an inward-looking process, this is an outward-looking information gathering to discuss these opportunities with dual enrollment. So we're excited about that. This year we will continue to strengthen our integrated data strategy and coordination. We will continue to focus on something we started at the end of last year that I think will be of particular interest to this committee, which is how do we support efforts to grow and sustain our P20 educator workforce. So this is a conversation that was of great interest to our members. Again, we want to think about what the P20 role can be to be a capacity add, to be a value add in the space, not to step on toes, not to be redundant. We're not the ones offering those programs, but to look at where can the opportunities of who we have at our table, where can those opportunities exist to help further this work across the entirety of the P20 early childhood through higher ed spectrum. We are beginning that work in collaboration with the Governor's Workforce Development Board and their education subcommittee as we look jointly at that overlap of workforce and education. So that's a new project we're focusing on this year. As I mentioned, we are also engaging in strategic planning to set a focused, aligned plan for the P20 over the next 4 years. And we really hope that that plan is able to align with whatever you and your colleagues decide to do with the state education attainment goal. As you know, 10 years ago, the state, or a little more, the state adopted a post-secondary education attainment goal that expires this year. We are curious to see what happens with that and excited and eager to partner on that work. Particularly have been intrigued by some of our sister states who have moved to an attainment goal that has benchmarks in early childhood, K-12, higher ed, and workforce development, recognizing the importance of the entirety of that learner lifespan as we work towards increased post-secondary completion in our state. So we look forward to aligning with that. And of course, continuing to provide support for the incubation, acceleration, and amplification of innovative ideas in our state. And so I'll leave you with that. I'm not going to read through the last slide. It's sort of information for you to take with you on why does this matter? What is the benefit of a P20 council? There's also more in last year's annual report about that, including highlights from some of the states I visited, talking about the impact that their members shared with me that their council has made in their state. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions, comments? Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it, and thank you so much for the information that you shared. Question for you: when I look at the slide regarding your members or those that participate in your discussions, curious, is Pellsby a member, or do they have a representative that engages in these conversations with you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for the question. Pellsby is not currently a voting member. All of our meetings are open, and we often have guests at our meetings, also depending on the topic. And so there may be times, for example, as we're working on Educator workforce, that we would want key partners at the table, or key partners would come to us and want to join, and Pellsby is certainly one of those.
Okay. If I may, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not necessarily advocating one way or another as to whether or not they should be a voting member, but as somebody that sits in the K-12 Education Policy Committee and then also on the Higher Education Committee, a conversation we have often is one that aligns with the very reason why this organization exists, which is how from K through 12 all the way through higher education are we aligning everything. We've talked about that regarding the READ Act more recently, and I think also too when we talk about a teacher shortage and what those higher education institutions are doing and how they're able to help us create and send new teachers into the workforce that our public schools and all schools really in Minnesota desperately need. It would be helpful to make sure that Pellsby in particular is a part of those conversations, and I'll tell you why very briefly. I'm hearing from some of our higher education institutions that Pellsby is maybe doing some things or trying to impose some requirements that are kind of counterproductive to them continuing to create new teachers or those with teaching degrees. And so I would love to see them in this entire group have that be a part of their conversations moving forward, specifically focusing on the teacher shortage and how our higher education institutions are helping us address that shortage and also address the curriculum in the READ Act in terms of the science of reading and making sure that our people are getting those evidence-based practices while they're in college or going to get that teaching degree and then ultimately ending up in the classroom. So thank you for the work that you all do, and please keep those conversations in mind as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Members? I just have one question. Have you ever had these 26 members in the same room at the same time?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chair, we have.
Can you describe that in not too detailed of an answer, but just curious, is it cordial, is it civil, is it respectful? Or
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to put
Mr.
words in
Chair.
your mouth. Please feel free.
Thank you. Yes, I believe some of my members are behind me as well, so I better answer that question correctly. Yes, it's a really positive dynamic in the group. Really what we're focused on is work that we can do together, areas of agreement and opportunity. I think feedback from our members has been we meet virtually, but then at least once a year in person, and to be honest, it's an electrifying dynamic. We're together. People really seem to appreciate the opportunity to talk cross-organizationally, cross-age group, and think about the work we're doing holistically. So it is a very positive dynamic.
And was that the summit you described at the U of M? Was that?
No, that was a subgroup that included many of those members as well.
Well, thank you for the work that you do. Thanks for bringing those diverse groups together to discuss issues that will matter to all of our educators and the students of Minnesota. So I appreciate that as chair, and I'm sure my members do as well. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senators.
Next up, Senator Kunesh will present Senate File 1355, which the committee plans to vote on and send to the State and Local Government Committee. We'll begin as soon as Senator Kunesh is ready, and we do have testifiers.
Ready? All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and Mr. Chair. I have before you Senate File 1462. This is the Pelsby bill. And what this bill is doing, as Senator Duckworth just described, making efficiencies, making some change for good change and efficiency. So the bill transfers some of the grant administration from Pelsby to MDE for the collaborative urban and greater Minnesota Educators of Color grant and the mentoring and retention program. And then the staff position associated with the grant is transferred to MDE. MDE has the skill and the capacity to manage these grants more efficiently and better, and so we are transferring that over to MDE. This bill also transfers the responsibility to administer the statewide paraprofessional credential to MDE, but administration of the alternative teacher pathway is maintained by Pelsby. And there's allocations for those operating expenses and to support positions to assist candidates in completing their alternative teaching pathways. There's funding for additional license pathway programs for heritage language and culture teachers. There is funding in there for online platform for license via portfolio to streamline the portfolio process. And then the bill also funds the Board of School Administrators and allows the board to undertake the review and processing of those administrative license applications. And then the last thing is that the legislation removes requirements for Tier 1 license holders to attempt but not pass a content exam before renewing their Tier 1 license. And that will definitely expedite that licensure renewal process. And so, Mr. Chair, that is the bill. And we have here with us Dr. Yelena Bailey. She's the Executive Director of Pelsby, and I think she's got some more information for you.
Welcome, Ms. Bailey, to the committee. Identify yourself, sign in, and begin when you're ready.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having me here. My name is Dr. Yelena Bailey. I'm the Executive Director of the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, otherwise known as Pelsby. I'd like to thank Senator Kunesh for carrying this bill, which supports vital operations, including Pelsby's ability to process and issue licenses in a timely manner. It also supports important alternative pathways of licensure, including the Heritage Language Pathway Program and licensure via portfolio. Because this bill is largely about operations, I did want to provide some data and some context to that work. So as you'll see on the screen, Pelsby is currently responsible for accrediting 38 teacher preparation providers across the state of Minnesota, and those preparation providers support nearly 700 teacher licensure programs. We also serve 110,000 licensed teachers in the state of Minnesota, and we issue tens of thousands of licenses every year. Our board continues to meet and work on policy, which includes updating teacher licensure standards in keeping with best practices. We also do quite a bit of work around public-facing data to make sure we are providing the public with a good picture of the teaching profession and ensuring districts have the teachers in the appropriate teaching licenses for their assignments. And then finally, last year, we administered $17 million in grant funding These grant programs remain important in supporting our teacher candidates and teachers. However, as Senator Kunesh mentioned, that amount has outpaced our small agency's capacity and ability, so this bill will recommend moving that work to MDE. So I'm going to provide just a very brief overview of each section, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. Before I do that, I don't want to forget, as always, I'd like to thank you all for the work that you've been doing to serve Minnesota's teachers and students every year, and I like to provide data to show you the outcomes of that hard work as our state policymakers. So in your packets, you do have a handout that has outcomes of the legislative data of things that passed over the past 2 years, and you'll see quite a bit of support for those alternative pathways for teacher candidates and teachers across the state, and for our short call pilot program. So some evidence that your hard work is definitely paying off for Minnesota's teachers and students. So Section 1 of SF 1462 just moves the Teachers of Color and American Indian Teachers Report to MDE. Pellsby and OHE will continue to collaborate, but this is in keeping with moving those grant programs. Sections 2 through 4 move the voluntary paraprofessional credential to MDE, and that's in alignment with their jurisdiction over non-licensed staff, whereas Pellsby is a board that looks strictly at licensed teachers. Section 5 removes an outdated reference to the 1992.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt for 1 second? I apologize.
Absolutely.
I've
Senator
got-
Duckworth?
Thank you. I've got a copy of SF 1462 in front of me, and then I have an A2. Are we referencing the delete everything A2 right now, or?
I was going to wait for the senator to make that motion.
Okay, but right now, the testimony is to the A2, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth, and my apologies.
My apologies as well. Mr. Chair, I do have the A2 amendment, and this just clarifies it and puts it in better organization for the bill to be heard. So I'd like to move the A2 amendment.
All those in favor of the author's amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth, and thank you, Senator Kunesh.
All right.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I will now continue, and this is with the A2 amendment, so thank you, Senator Duckworth. So Section 5 removes a reference to outdated INTAS standards in favor of the current standards, and it also removes an obsolete reporting requirement. Section 6 merely removes some redundant language. Section 7 removes a requirement for Tier 1 teachers to take but not pass a content exam before they renew their license. Section 8 moves the administration of the Collaborative Urban and Greater Minnesota Educators of Color Grant, or CUGMEC, as it's lovingly known, to MDE. Sections 9 through 13 move the administration of the Teacher Mentorship and Retention of Effective Teachers Grant to MDE. And then Section 14 simply aligns reporting requirements for the Alternative Teacher Preparation Grant to the actual administration of that grant. Section 15 transfers Pellsby's grant-making duties and the one staff member who oversees our grants to MDE. Section 16 transfers the appropriations for CUGMEC, the Teacher Mentorship and Retention of Effective Teachers Grant, and the Teacher Recruitment Marketing Campaign Grant, all to MDE. It also provides one-time funding for IT changes and one ongoing FTE to the Board of School Administrators to enable them to administer administrative licenses. So you may recall Pellsby brought forth language last year after we noticed that in 2018, the duties to administer or to process administrative licenses were moved to the Board of School Administrators, but was somehow an oversight. So the new executive director and myself are trying to rectify that, but they realize they don't have the staff member to issue those licenses. So Pellsby currently is issuing those on behalf of BOSA, and BOSA has asked for, they would need an additional staff member to make that possible. Section 17 is about funding operations and alternative pathways to licensure. And to provide some context for that, I wanted to share a map from our online portfolio platform. And so you'll see it gives you a visual of all the individuals since we launched with that online platform in October of 2023 who've either started a portfolio or expressed interest by signing up for a portfolio account. And I think this visual really captures that alternative pathways like licensure via portfolio truly do serve the entire state of Minnesota and not just one region in particular. So I thought this visual provides some important context. Additionally, I wanted to share some data with you on licensure via portfolio as an alternative pathway. Particularly, you'll notice this fiscal year, we pulled data at about the halfway mark, and we have already outpaced the previous year in the number of initial and additional licenses we've issued via portfolio. So this continues to be a growing interest across the state, particularly as we look to fill teacher shortage areas while maintaining high standards. So Section 17 does a couple of key things. It increases operation funds to cover staff salaries, without which Pellsby's at risk of not being able to issue licenses in that 30-day time period. It funds portfolio review. It funds the Heritage Language Portfolio Program. It funds alternative pathway programs, and those are cohorts, for example, where we work with districts on guiding individuals through the portfolio process. And it also funds the online portfolio platform we use in the state of Minnesota, which is Proserva. The final thing I'll note in this walkthrough, before I'm happy to answer any questions, is that ESSA 1462 does not include an appropriation for the Preparation Pathways Grant Program, as that was designed to help support alternative pathways like licensure via portfolio, and that work is now carried out by the staff listed under Section 17. So that is the walk through the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Members, Senator Abler. Senator Duckworth.
No, I don't know about that, Jim. Thank you very much. It's a question related to your slide. It talks about funding alternative pathways to licensure. If I'm looking at the numbers correctly, it looks like about, at least according to this, 12 folks over the last 3 or so years have used the portfolio process. I'm wondering, you know, there's another pathway, the experience pathway. Do you know off the top of your head, or could you give us an idea of how many folks have been able to use the experience pathway to move from Tier 2 to Tier 3 licensure?
Mr. Chair, Senator Duckworth, members, that's a great question. I don't have that data with me, but I do have a data specialist who's pulled that, so I can send that over to you. I do know on average we had, I want to say it's about 100 people or so a year have used that pathway.
That's all I got. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
Well, thanks. And so there's some testifiers coming to talk about their enthusiasm for moving the grants over, but to the amendment, I have a question on line 3.4 and and following sections 5 and 6. And I think the whole scope of my question is beyond the point of this bill. I see it's just kind of clarifying some language, but teacher preparation programs must demonstrate the following to obtain board approval. This process is not going as smooth as it might for at least some teacher preparation programs. And we can take it more offline, but I'd like to call attention to it in terms of deadlines, timelines, expectations, and then speedy approvals with some of the changes that have gone forward. And so I'll ask just now, have you heard about that as an issue with programs not having communications with you they consider timely and effective to help them accomplish getting approved?
Mr. Chair, Senator Abler, that's a great question. So we have not heard those issues. We do continue to work closely with both MACD, the association that represents our higher ed base, and the coalition, they don't have a great acronym, the Coalition of Alternative Teacher Preparation Providers. We also have a public-facing manual that outlines the timeline it takes for approval, as well as all the steps that are necessary for both unit and program approval. So because of that clarity in public-facing documents, we haven't heard that. But we do continue to work with folks, and we have, excitingly, been able to be pretty speedy in improving things like new teacher apprenticeship programs. So we're working closely with them, but I'd love to hear, if you are getting that information, how we can better partner with our providers.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
So it sounds as though if there was a program that wasn't thinking things were timely and at all timely, that you'd be surprised, but you'd be happy to talk about it. So, all right, so that's good. And then just one other, thank you for that, and I'll, like I said, take it offline, so it's helpful, and so we can maybe set up a time. And secondly, there's money in this bill to make it work. And so if you don't get the money to make it work, there's a budget thing going on. I'm sure the governor actually has less money in education than before. So if you don't get the money, is any of this burden going to fall on the districts to do anything at all? Or is this going to fall on you all to try to not do it or fudge around somehow? with your own budgets?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, so none of this will fall on districts, right? This is all operational funding for Pellsby and for state agencies. And we, of course, have contingency plans that mean staff reductions or things like that if we're unable to get the funding. But we pull together and we can figure out a way to make things work for our teachers and students.
All right. I think that making it work for our teachers and students is a slogan we should adopt, Mr. Chair. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Members? Ms. Bailey, I have two questions. Dr. Bailey, I was just reminded, sorry. Dr. Bailey, the testing thing for, in section 7, getting rid of the testing, is there a reason for that? I mean, not that I disagree with removing it, but I'm just curious why we're getting rid of that. And then my other comment, we hear a lot about the portfolio. I'm not sure if you've ever brought in a finished portfolio for us to pass around during a hearing. I think that'd be nice for us to see as the finished product of what an educator gets to go through in order to, whatever the finishing product looks like. I think for me, I'd be curious to see a couple of those at some point. But anyways, back to my question on the testing. Thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We would be happy to share that portfolio data with you all, and we are actually working on posting some of those examples online as well. And I believe you'll hear from a testifier later who was able to obtain licensure via portfolio, can speak to how rigorous yet rewarding that pathway is. With regard to the testing, we see this as somewhat of a technical change simply because it doesn't provide us with any meaningful data on the teacher's ability or effectiveness, because they don't have to pass the test. They simply just attempt it, and then they let us know they've attempted it so they can renew their license. So we're often not even getting any information on how well they scored or whether they worked to score a certain way, because they know that you just have to attempt the test. So what we are hearing is that it does delay things often for teachers in districts right now, and so we're recommending removing it for that purpose.
Thank you. Next up, we have 4 testifiers. Next up, Stephanie Hagan, Alex Vitrella are the next 2, and then up after that are Dekwa Mohidin and Eftalo Zar are the 4 testifiers. So.
Nope, doesn't matter.
When you begin, identify yourself and make sure you sign in on the sheet that's in front of you up there somewhere. Thank you.
Sounds good. Hi, y'all. My name is Steph Hagan, and I am a teacher of languages and literature at Brightmont Academy. I received licensure via portfolio last August. I'm currently an English teacher at a private school, and I've been teaching in various capacities for over 7 years. Today I'm testifying to the rigor, commitment, and viability of the Alternative Pathways program, as well as the importance of having that option available for my family. I first began teaching, like many hopeful professors do, in graduate school. I was at Yale University studying for my master's in philosophy of religion and was selected to be a teaching fellow for the course Intro to Ancient Philosophy. Suddenly, I was in charge of leading discussions and grading papers for 15 eager Yale freshmen. Prior to this appointment, my idea of being an academic consisted largely of translating Greek, reading books, and conducting research alone. However, as my students and I worked through the writings of Plato and Aristotle, I began to fall in love with the text in a way I hadn't before. Despite it being my first time teaching, I was nominated by many of these students for Yale's most prestigious student teaching prize. By the time I graduated from my master's, my goals had changed. I still wanted to read a lot of books, but I wanted to do it in service to education rather than research. After I graduated, I was appointed a lectureship position, also at Yale. Funny how that works. While teaching continued to be my joy, I realized that my favorite students were usually not the ones who were shining stars or natural fits to the major. I began to realize that teaching at high school might be a better path long-term in order to serve a whole growing person. I started teaching high school in person in Minnesota in the fall of 2020. Due to COVID, I was able to retain my lectureship at Yale during this process. I would lecture remotely over Zoom in the morning and then immediately go and teach high school English and history classes in the afternoon. By the end of the semester, I knew that high school was the road for me. The state of Minnesota has really high expectations for educators. While I was able to teach in some private schools, many of the communities that I wanted to serve, particularly my own immediate neighborhood in South Minneapolis, required a license. I decided to pursue licensure through the Alternative Pathways program, specifically because taking out additional student loans or quitting my current teaching job to do student teaching was not a valid financial path for my family. I knew I was a good teacher, and I was ready to prove it. The Alternative Pathways process is rigorous. It not only requires teaching experience, but several years of teaching experience in the arena you want to be licensed in with the grade level you want to work with. Between attaching distinct pieces of evidence for each standard, as well as writing individual essays to explain these pieces of evidence for each standard, and there being well over 100 standards, the documentation and writing commitment for the portfolio is massive. If I had to calculate, I would say I spent well over 400 hours writing essays, tweaking lesson plans, completing professional developments, and chasing down documentation from the last decade to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that I had the experience to fulfill the expectations of licensure. There were many times during it that I wondered if it would be easier to return and complete a second master's. Nevertheless, I am beyond thankful to the competence and mentorship provided by the licensing board. Even though I did it alone, I was never, ever lonely. Today, I am eagerly refreshing jobs pages after school, and I hope to work in a public school next fall. My dream is to work in my own neighborhood and respond specifically to the needs and dreams of my community. I'm aiming for a job at Roosevelt or South for anyone who is wondering or hiring. I am so thankful to be here and have a license. Thank you for your time.
Members, questions, comments for the testifier? It's rare that we hear ninth graders and eager learners in the same sentence, so that was music to my ears. You must be, you have the art of teaching down, so thank you for that. What's the proudest part of your portfolio?
Oh my gosh. Definitely the highlight of the portfolio was reaching out to my own current students for sort of their help and feedback. A lot of the documentation required was things like teaching reviews. And so being able to partner with them in this process and them like basically do my license with me was really rewarding.
Thank you. Is it Alex Vitrella next? Okay, identify yourself, sign in, and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Buenas tardes, me llamo Alessandra Vitrella y es un honor estar con ustedes hoy. My name is Alex Vitrella, and I am here to testify in support of SF 1462, and in particular the Heritage, Language, and Culture portion. It's an honor to be with you all today. I'm here on behalf of Education Evolving, which is an education advocacy nonprofit. I'm a former ESL teacher and know the impacts of heritage language firsthand. I'm accompanied by two absolutely brilliant educators that you'll hear from in just a little bit to tell you more about the impact of this program. I'd like to start by expressing my gratitude to this committee. Your previous support paved the way for this really special program. As you might remember, we came here in 2023 requesting your support to establish a heritage language licensure pathway with PELSB. You all made it possible. Heritage language learners are students with a home language other than English. Currently, this applies to 1 in 5 Minnesota students. We know that all of our students are struggling with mental health and that academic outcomes are well below what they could be. Research tells us that heritage language instruction addresses these critical issues by building positive identity and belonging, improving academic achievement, and making English easier to learn. Now, I have the pleasure of sharing with you the incredible success of this program. Just last year, the first cohort began in the spring with 47 educators. 9 languages were represented across that first cohort, and these educators came from 18 school districts across the entire state, from Austin to Pine City. As of today, 40% of that first cohort have already attained their full license, and We're also really proud that we have some of the firsts. So that cohort led to the first fully licensed Somali educator, the first fully licensed Karen teacher, and the first Amharic educator. Pellsby just opened up the applications for this second cohort, and they have already received 64 applicants, so the demand continues. This pathway is already retaining teachers, improving school communities, and is a great example of what happens when agencies partner with teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Members? Next two testifiers, come on up, identify yourself. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Deqa Muhyiddin. I am a district program facilitator with Minneapolis Public Schools. I stood here too and I testified in 2023, and I'm happy to see some familiar faces. My journey with heritage language programming began when I was an ESL teacher. We had partnered with the Swedish Institute. Elders from the community would come in and would show their immigrant trunk from their families and would share it with new immigrants. They would tell them tales of how they got here and would inspire students to what the future would look like for them. They would also talk about language loss, a loss that everyone that is in this room has experienced, because our ancestors came here as immigrants, and even the Native Americans have experienced language loss. And they would encourage students to retain their language. They would share stories of having traveled back to Sweden and being able to try to connect with family members there and not being able to like people that they were related to that they could identify, but not being able to communicate effectively. They talked about the shame that they felt and their inability to share parts of their roots and cultural traditions with their children. And so, as a classroom teacher and as a new mom at the time, my son is 7, but he's 7 now, but he was very, I wondered what the future would hold for my son. What would it look like for him? How would I be able to connect him to some of the beautiful stories that I grew up hearing as a child and some of the traditions that we learned at home? And that led to the journey that we began in Minneapolis. When I sat in front of you last time, I had shared a program that we began in Minneapolis, and I shared the struggles that we faced. Our teachers were unlicensed. Now our teachers are licensed, thanks to you all. And I sit in front of you today requesting that you continue on the program. Because of this program, we were able to service over 500 students, not actually 350 students, 500 was an exaggeration, I'm sorry about that. But we began with servicing 70 students, and our numbers have increased tremendously as we grow the program. Our program was a K-12 pathway this year. We're completing our elementary school. It will be 5th grade. And so I thank you for providing for funding for those students. Those children, we have children, you all, that have never had the opportunity to not hear their heritage language in their classrooms. They were in kindergarten, they had a Somali language class, and that is a part and parcel of who they are. They don't get to come home like my children do and ask me, why am I different? My son, after Christmas break, came home one day and he said, Mommy, I don't like being Somali. I do live in Apple Valley School District. And so this program provides space for children space for them to be seen, a space where they can hear their home language, a space where they can be connected to their roots, and they won't be sharing stories. At least when they share their parents' immigrant stories, it won't be from a space of language loss or cultural loss. It will be a place where they'll be sharing the beauty of retaining their identities while celebrating the joys of being an American. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do both testifiers, and then I'll ask members for questions. So thank you. Begin when you're ready.
All right. Hello, my name is Etta Lozar, and I am honored to speak before you today to testify on behalf of the Heritage Language Pathway Program. When I first arrived in the United States as a refugee, the Karen people were largely unknown to the wider community. There are no Karen language class and no Karen teacher to guide us and support us. I often wonder how different things might have been if there had been a Karen class or Karen teacher available when I first arrived. Would I have been more confident and proud of my identity? This question I often reflect on. Today, as a first Korean licensed teacher in the United States, I am proud to stand here and share how much of a difference the Heritage Language Program has made, not only in my life, but also as the life of my student. This program has given me the opportunity to reconnect with my root, to relearn my native language and culture in a way I never thought possible. But more importantly, it allowed me to pass that knowledge to my students, many of who are eager to learn about the history, language, and the culture of Korean people. Without programs like the Heritage Language Program in Minnesota, we would have the opportunity to celebrate the accomplishment of the first Korean teacher in the United States. The Korean language was forbidden to taught in Burma, the country we call home. This program is not just about teaching, it's about fostering the sense of pride, resilience, and unity that lasts for generations. I stand here today not only as an educator, but as a proud member of the Korean community. I ask for you to continue to support the Heritage Language Path program, as it's important to preserve our cultural identity and empower for the next generation of leaders, educators, and community members. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the program and make it less different for the life of individual and community like mine.
Thank you. Members? Senator Duckworth.
I can always just see it in your face, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick ones for the bill author. Senator Kunesh, the funding amounts that are in the bill for some of these grants, are those new amounts or are those already previously approved, just getting moved from Pellsby to MDE to administer?
They are being moved from Pellsby to MDE.
Okay, if I can, Mr. Chair. And are those amounts that have already been passed in years past in other bills from previous legislative sessions, or are these the new amounts that the governor's kind of proposing specific to these programs into 26 and 27?
I think it's a combination, but let me double check with Dr. Bailey. Thank you.
Before the two testifiers walk away, congratulations, both of you do the Somali and Korean communities proud. And I appreciate your commitment to education and the kids that you get to interact with. So thank you for testifying today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, those are the previous amounts passed in previous years, and so it is just a strict transfer.
Okay, thank you. One more, Mr. Chair, thank you. So I appreciate the testimony and the figures that were shared by Pellsby earlier regarding the portfolio pathway. And the reason I asked my question is just to kind of get a comparison between how many teachers or how many folks are moving from one tier to another, given the many pathways that may exist. One of those being also the experience pathway. So I'm glad that we've talked about portfolio and seen somebody up here who utilized that. And I just hope too that we're also being mindful of the other pathways that exist, specifically the experience pathway, and making sure it's available for as many educators as possible at the different tier levels, whether it's now or in the future as we look at additional legislation and how we can continue to keep teachers licensed here in Minnesota and ultimately in the classroom in front of our children. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members? Dr. Bailey, I just have a question that one of the other speakers prompted, and I know you'll be the one to answer this. Back in the day, I just knew that, like, if I wanted to be a teacher, the only option available was to go to the University of Minnesota and apply to get into their education program. How does someone find out today, if you're like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 22, 17-year-old, how do they find out about the alternative pathways to teacher licensure? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, that's a great question. And I will say, while we highlighted licensure via portfolio and the heritage language pathway, we have a number of other alternative pathways like the teacher apprenticeship program, alternative preparation providers, and even our IHEs, our higher ed based, have different programs that would constitute alternative type programs. So a lot of that largely is us trying to work with our community partners to spread the word. So members like Education Evolving, who are community organizations, help reach out to their constituents and say, here's a pathway, let's get this out in your community so that you can then enter that pathway, and then our job is to support them through that.
So it's word of mouth. Well, we'll see if we can get some money for a billboard or two. for their program. Thank you for coming in today. Any final did we move the A2 amendment? Okay, any final comments about the A2 amendment, Senator Kunesh?
Not about the A2 amendment, but I just, want to remind all of those that are listening and all of us how serious we are about ensuring that we have well-trained, well-licensed teachers in front of our students. And the opportunity to create these really unique pathways has just been, something I'm extremely proud of because you and I, as former teachers, know that people come to us in different ways with different skills and expertise, and many of them want to share those values and those skills with their students. And when we can acknowledge the need for really unique pathways to licensure and making sure that the teachers are prepared, that they have the resources they need to make sure that our students do too. And so I think this bill just represents and reflects the values of education here in Minnesota, and I'm really proud to be able to be a part of providing those unique ways of getting those teachers in front of our students.
Thank you. The bill will be sent to state and local government next. Oh, we're voting on it first.
Yep, we need a vote.
All those, Senator Duckworth, okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The bill's being sent to state and local government. Thank you, Senator Kunesh.
Thank you.
Senator Westlin, 1457, emergency response plans requirement, and we have an added testifier, so we've got 5 testifiers to your bill now. Begin when you're ready, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm glad to be here today presenting Senate File 1457. And just to put this into some context, more than 356,000 cardiac arrests occur outside of a hospital annually in the United States. Nearly 90% of these cardiac arrests are fatal. It's estimated that there are more than 23,000 children under 18 who experience a cardiac arrest outside of the hospital annually. And almost 40% of these are at sports and athletics-related events. In 2024, a version of this bill was dropped, and it was modified, and ultimately what passed last year was that the Commissioner of the Department of Education would maintain and make available a model policy that could be adopted by school boards and schools. This bill really sort of goes back to the idea that every school should be required to have a cardiac emergency response plan. So if you look at the bill, we'll do a quick walkthrough. Section 1 of the bill requires school districts and charter schools to develop cardiac emergency response plans and to implement those for the 2026 school year. The plans must be available on the school website and in paper form in designated areas. The plans must also be given to coaches and athletic staff members. What must be included in the cardiac emergency response plan is that there need to be identified members of the cardiac emergency response team, and then guidelines for the response to a sudden cardiac arrest. Other requirements include automated external defibrillators, AEDs, and those must be clearly marked and placed in an unlocked location either within the athletic venue or located within a 1 to 3 minute walk of the athletic venue. All coaches, athletic staff, and identified faculty must be CPR and defibrillator trained. It's surprising to me that that is not already the case, that our coaches are not trained in CPR. And then all members of the emergency response team must participate in a cardiac emergency simulation 30 days prior to the start of each school year. The training requirements include that school districts must provide all members of the CERP team with the training necessary to implement the cardiac emergency response plan. The CERP team must provide certification that they've completed their simulation to the school board. Looking at Section 2, Section 2 amends 128C.02 to require the Minnesota State High School League to adopt a CERP plan and ensure that the CERP team is present at each and every interscholastic athletic event. Section 3 appropriates $2 million to assist schools and charter schools in implementing cardiac emergency response plans. This can include the purchase and maintenance of AEDs or CPR equipment, fund CPR and basic first aid training, or purchase educational materials regarding cardiac arrests and emergencies. I do have an amendment. It is a technical amendment, and in essence, in a number of spots in the bill, it has inadvertently referred to automatic external defibrillators. The A5 amendment changes that to automated. It should be automated external defibrillators. And then the last thing I guess I will say, Mr. Chair, is that I know the bill that I brought forward last year did have bipartisan support. I know Senator Howe, whom I just spoke with, is dropping a similar bill to this, and I'm speaking with him to see if we can't maybe combine our efforts. But at the end of the day, this is about keeping our kids safe. We hear fairly regularly about young folks who are having these unexpected cardiac emergencies, and sometimes we have been lucky enough that the resources or the personnel have been available to save those lives. But we do know that time is of the essence in those situations, and we can significantly increase the likelihood of survival when 911 is called immediately, CPR is administered immediately, and if possible, an AED is used. This bill has the support of the American Heart Association, Project Adam, the Smart Hearts Sports Association, which includes the NFL and the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Sudden Cardiac Arrest Advocates, and the Minnesota Athletic Trainers Association. So I look forward to a discussion of the bill today, and I suppose, Mr. Chair, we should probably take care of the amendment first and then perhaps testifiers.
Good idea. So I'll move the A25 amendment. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment passes. Thank you. Questions for the author of the amendment, the bill? Otherwise, we'll go right to testifiers. Okay. Testifiers, come on up. Kelly Yulin, Norman Kim Ackerstrom are first up, and then we have three others after. Identify yourself and sign in, and welcome to the committee. I enjoyed your family's column in today's paper. The timing was perfect, given that you're testifying today.
Thank you very much. My husband, the author, and young daughter, Emma, right behind us. So, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the committee. My name is Kelly. I'm responsible for there being a baby here, which I promise there's a good reason. Thank you for having us. I would describe myself as a transplant Minnesotan, a pharmacist, a wife. I did the Minnesotan thing, so a pharmacist, a wife, and a mother to three amazing young girls. One thing I never labeled myself as was a political activist. If you had asked me a year ago if I thought I would be standing or sitting in front of you testifying for anything, I would have very quickly said no. But in addition to those other things that I'm now a passionate CPR advocate after my 3-month-old daughter, Emma, suffered a cardiac arrest last spring. Cardiac arrests can happen for a multitude of reasons. As you're probably aware, they can happen to well-conditioned professional athletes on the football field, to very sick patients in the hospital, to those with heart abnormalities, and to those with perfectly functioning hearts like our daughters. When a child suffers a sudden cardiac arrest, or SCA, outside of the hospital, it's always unexpected. It can happen on a sunny spring day without any warning, just like it did for Emma. But Emma's lucky enough to have a doctor as a dad, and she is here before you now, meeting all of her age-appropriate milestones because CPR was started almost immediately. Her heart took 16 painstakingly long minutes to beat again on its own, but during that time, CPR pumped her blood when her heart could not. But what if we could live in a world where we didn't need to count on luck or the off chance that someone's parent was in the medical field? It is well understood that the chance of survival for an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest increases the sooner that CPR is started. Unfortunately, only 40% of people who suffer one get immediate help, contributing to the dismal statistic that only 5 to 10% of people survive. We are in support of SF 1457 because the more people that know CPR and how to use an AED, the higher likelihood of survival. Even a minute or two delay in Emma receiving CPR could have led to a much different outcome. And a 10-minute delay, and she would not be here before you. There are so many heartbreaking examples of children who suffered an SCA and the symptoms weren't recognized, or someone wasn't trained in CPR, or an AED wasn't nearby. We want Emma and her sisters and our neighbors' children to attend schools and athletic practices surrounded by staff that know what to do if such an emergency were to happen again. And it will to other Minnesota children. SCA unfortunately kills more than 2,000 children and adolescents in this country each year, and approving this bill would help to reduce that number and keep Minnesota children safe. We need to rely less on the chance that someone trained will be nearby and have it be the standard going forward. Thank you, Senator Westlin, for authoring this bill, and to members of the committee for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions for the testifier? Norman Kim. Okerstrom, thank you.
So fun fact, Mr. Chair and committee members, Mr. Okerstrom and I actually grew up together and had no contact for many, many, many decades until this bill came up. And so we've had the opportunity to reconnect. We're not going to say how old we are, though.
Mr. Chair.
Senator McQuaid.
Senator Westlin, does he know any embarrassing stories that he's willing to share with the committee?
No.
No. Okay.
He may, but no.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Kim Okerstrom, and this is my husband, Norm, and we are residents of Plymouth, Minnesota. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share our personal testimonies to support the Cardiac Emergency Response Bill, Senate File 1457, and thank you to Senator Westlin for supporting this bill. So first, I'd like to take you back to almost 16 years ago, to June 16th, 2009. Our son Teddy had just turned 16 on June 4th, just had gotten his driver's license, and was looking forward to the second day of Trojan Power, which was Wayzata High School's summer conditioning program for his football team. I was working in my office when Norm called me at 11:03 a.m. He was frantic, and he said, "Kim, Teddy collapsed. They're doing CPR on him. I'm heading to the high school. Start praying and come." This was our introduction to the horrific world of sudden cardiac arrest, often called SCA, or as the medical community calls it, sudden cardiac death, because death will occur if nothing happens. What happened? Why? How could this happen to my perfectly healthy, young, athletic 16-year-old? What we learned later is that Teddy had been running light sprints at the end of the session. With more than 100 teammates running in lines, Teddy collapsed face first into the turf. His teammates yelled to Coach Matt Lombardi, Coach Matt ran to Teddy's side, and Teddy appeared to be having a seizure. But then he stopped breathing, and his lips and face turned blue. Matt knew quickly that this wasn't a seizure, but SCA. He yelled to another coach to run to the school to get the AED and call 911, and then he started chest compressions. When the AED arrived, Coach Ryan Johnson applied the AED, and thankfully it took only one shock to convert Teddy's heart from the deadly arrhythmia of ventricular defibrillation to a normal pulse. Because of these life-saving actions, Teddy was able to finish high school and graduate from college, and he is currently a middle school teacher in Denver and is working on a master's degree in counseling. He loves to ski in the winter and hike 14ers in the summer. But we are the minority of parents. As it's been mentioned, less than 10% of people survive an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And SCA is the leading cause of death on school campuses. Over the past 15 years, we have gotten to know many, many parents whose child died in very, very similar circumstances. We have seen the pain and anguish as they grieve the loss of their sons and daughters. And we have tried to do what we can alongside them to prevent any other parent from losing a child to SCA. And that's why we're here today, to ask you to champion this bill. The bill currently includes key components for success. It includes a requirement. Schools must implement a cardiac emergency response plan. It holds the school board accountable, and leadership and accountability is key when implementing any plan. And it requires monitoring and training, an annual review to ensure the school is ready to respond every year. Implementation of this bill will ensure our wonderful Minnesota schools are prepared to save the life of someone's precious son or daughter. Thank you.
Chairman Swedzinski and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Norm Okerstrom. As you just heard, sudden cardiac arrest happens to anyone, any place, anytime, and at any age. When sudden cardiac arrest strikes, there is no warning. Without quick and appropriate response at the scene prior to EMS arrival, the person in cardiac arrest almost always dies. Just think, today in the United States, almost 1,000 individuals will have an out-of-hospital sudden cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, 90% of these individuals will not survive. Recent data from the American Heart Association states that of the 356,000 affected by sudden cardiac arrest, 23,000 are young people under the age of 18. Parent Heart Watch, the national voice for the prevention of sudden cardiac arrest in youth, also states that 1 in 300 youth have an undiagnosed heart condition that puts them at risk for SCA. When sudden cardiac arrest happens, seconds matter. A few years back, during a brief conversation with our City of Plymouth Police Chief, Mike Goldstein, I asked him what the average response time to an emergency was, and he proudly stated 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Now, this doesn't seem too bad in a metro area, but what about the response times in a rural, outstate school district? As a side note, the Plymouth Police arrived to the Wayzata High School football field just as Teddy's coaches were using the AED to shock Teddy's heart. We are forever grateful for the quick actions that his coaches, an alert teammate, and the staff at Wayzata took to save his life. It's these actions, or the unthinkable lack of appropriate actions during a sudden cardiac arrest prior to EMS arrival, that are oftentimes the difference between life and death. When someone collapses from sudden cardiac arrest, the chance of survival decreases 10% per minute. Immediate bystander intervention with hands-only CPR, this is CPR without doing mouth-to-mouth breathing, chest compressions only, it can triple the chance of survival. Using an AED before EMS arrival can boost survival rates up to 90%. Implementing a cardiac emergency response plan in schools is neither difficult nor burdensome. In fact, I know this because I initiated this effort to help Wayzata High School to become a Project Adam recognized heart-safe school in 2024 when I was employed as a student supervisor / hall monitor. In a nutshell, this is how it was implemented. This is how we implemented a CERP, a CERP, through the help of Project Adam at Wayzata. First, there must be support from the principal and other leaders to ensure success. We identified logical staff members, a few key teachers, and members of the administrative team to form our SERP team. Our district nurse presented the newly formed team with information on sudden cardiac arrest and the need for rapid response. For those not previously trained in CPR and the use of an AED, we provided training, which took only 90 minutes. After our team was trained, we all agreed upon the appropriate language to be used over our school-provided radios and trained our floor office personnel and teachers how to initiate the SERP team for rapid medical response. Once we felt like we were ready, we invited the Project Adam team from Children's Hospital to conduct a mock sudden cardiac arrest drill at the high school and time and evaluate our response. We passed the test under the time limit, which to all of us was a big relief. Members of our SERP team commented that they felt empowered personally and felt good having worked well as a team. We took the Project Adam feedback and implemented suggestions they offered into our plan. Each year, the Wayzata SERP team will review and practice the SERP to become more and more confident and proficient. In closing, implementing a cardiac emergency response plan for schools is not difficult, but it will take thoughtful leadership, commitment, planning, and accountability. The bill does not add an additional load on our teachers. Only a select few might be asked to be on a SERP team, and many of these teachers self-identify and appreciate the opportunity to serve in this capacity. The bill does not take students out of class, unlike other mandatory school drills. Requiring schools to have a well-thought-out written practice SERP, as well as having automated external defibrillators, AEDs, available will help each school community to be a much safer place to work, teach, learn, and play. One other point I wanted to bring up is that when Kim mentioned that Coach Lombardi yelled to another coach to run to the school, to call 911, to get an AED, that individual was named Tracy Bird. Tracy Bird was Minnesota's Teacher of the Year this year. So it's a nice fact to note. He's a great man and a better person, great teacher and a better person. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Members, any questions or comments for these two testifiers? I'm glad you're, Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like this bill. Actually, I have one of the papers here, the Advocates for Health. Joe Vogel's a program director, is a cousin of mine. We've got heart problems in our family, so he's helped to get AEDs around the central Minnesota area and things. So I think this is good. One thing I was reading this, and it probably doesn't exist. I think these are in schools, but is there a way to maybe have teams carry them so they have them there so we don't have to get them? I don't know if it's a thing. Yeah.
Mr. Chair and Senator, I think the intention is that there would be AEDs located so that there would always be one within a 1 to 3. I think the standard is it's got to be no further than 3 minutes away, but that this team would work to make sure that if an event took place that someone would respond immediately. I'm not sure if that fully answers your question.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, it's very common that athletic departments have portable AEDs. They're under 2.5 pounds that they can take with them if they're going off campus. For example, a cross-country running team, at a golf course. So.
That answers the question. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because those things happen when they're not at the school or near the building, right?
Typically, they're mounted on the walls. More and more schools are starting to get the outside save stations or other brand of monitoring box that's heated and cooled as well, so that the AED is closer to the athletic fields. In Wayzata's case, our Rotary Club of Plymouth helped donate the outdoor AED stations so that we have 3 additional AEDs closer to the field of action. It took, Teddy was without a pulse for 6 minutes, okay? And that was pretty rapid response, but it was still 6 minutes without a pulse.
Thank you. And another if I could, Chair, do we know, I just don't know, who, like, in schools is certified in CPR? Are, like, superintendents required? I'm sure nurses are, principals. Who is required to know CPR in schools?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, but I know that athletic coaches are not required to have it, which, as I said earlier, was really very surprising to me. So I'm not sure if there is a requirement for any specific personnel to have that training beyond the school nurse. But this would require personnel to have that training, which is offered for free by the Red Cross.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you,
American
Mr.
Heart
Chair.
Association.
Thank you. This is a good bill.
Thanks.
Well, I just want to add, thanks for the human heart's miracle of science, and I'm just glad to live in a state that has the medical technology to use modern medicine to keep that heart beating when it sometimes fails to beat. There is a letter in our packets of a young son who did not make it. So I appreciate our attempts, and listening to the testimony today, I think in 33 years in the classroom, I think we had training once during a workshop week. They brought in the dummies, but that was it. And it wasn't required, I don't think, to attend. And so I appreciate you bringing this forward, Senator Westlin. It's a great idea. And just to clarify, so coaches do not need to be certified in Minnesota, correct?
I don't know. I know that head coaches have been certified. I don't believe that assistant coaches have to be certified. It's not a fact, but I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have the expert and be able to answer that question as well. So next up is Mike Schonover, followed by Mr. Aronson, and then last up is Emily Schumacher.
Sounds great. Good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you for having me here and listening to my testimony. My name is Mike Schoonover, and I represent the Patrick Schoonover Heart Foundation. I am testifying today to support the cardiac emergency response plan. My wife, Gail, and I lost our son, Patrick, in November 2014 from sudden cardiac arrest. Patrick was playing hockey with his Eastview teammates up in Brainerd, received a body check and collapsed and did not get up. The medical examiner identified that Patrick had 2 undetected heart conditions that we did not know about. Ironically, Patrick's last 2 years of life, he had 2 physicals and 2 sports physicals that didn't bring up any type of evidence that he had a heart defect. So after Patrick passed away, we made it our mission to make sure that parents did not feel the grief and the loss that we did with our son Patrick. So we created the Patrick Schoonover Heart Foundation. Our mission with the foundation is to educate and advocate for sudden cardiac arrest and to eliminate kids from passing away doing what they love to do. So in 2015, we established the Patrick Schoonover Heart Foundation, and we do free Play for Patrick heart screenings throughout the state. To date, we've done, in the last 9 years, we have done 38 heart screens throughout the state. We've screened over 6,600 kids, identified 450 with high blood pressure with a second measurement out of both arms. And then we've also identified over 300 kids with a electrical or structural heart defect. Part of our screening process is to teach kids and their family members how to do CPR and how to use an AED and bring awareness to their environment. For instance, just down the hall and to the right is your AED should one of your members go down and have sudden cardiac arrest. I'm assuming you have a response plan as well. But we're just trying to advocate and get more interest into people paying attention to sudden cardiac arrest because it does happen. We also donate AEDs to host schools. So we've donated in the last 9 years 22 AEDs to area high schools and middle schools throughout the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. In closing, we believe that part of our mission is to identify kids with our heart screenings, but we cannot identify or screen all kids in the state. We need to have a backup plan, and this CERP bill will do that. We need to make more people aware of sudden cardiac arrest. We need to have emergency response plans, and we just need to have a continual push for that to happen every year. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members? Senator Abler?
Thanks for being here, Mr. Schoonover. I just can imagine the pain you felt about your son, and I see you can try to do something constructive, and I know it never goes away. Just a technical kind of question, though. So is there some simple things that can be done to screen for the cardiac piece? You mentioned blood pressure. Does it require something in depth, or is it something schools can do, or the regular, team physician, team PT people can do, or whatever?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Abler, that's a great question. So part of our screen is we do a family and personal health history.
Yeah.
We do a blood pressure check out of both arms. If their blood pressure is high, as kids will get the quote-unquote white coat syndrome, be a little bit excited, we will recheck their blood pressures. So those readings that we have, the kids that have high blood pressure have been checked twice. And we just ask that they monitor that because Patrick's condition, Patrick had a coarctation in the aorta and a bicuspid aortic valve. So he had high blood pressure on the upper side of his body and low blood pressure on the lower part. So he would have had high blood pressure if the doctor would have recognized that in clinic and said he has high blood pressure, you should continue to check it. That would have meant that he should have seen a cardiologist. So that's a simple check. We also do a 12-lead EKG to check the electrical rhythm of the kid's heart, and then we also do a limited echocardiogram. So we do a ultrasound of the heart, and then we have the kids and the parents meet with cardiologists and medical doctors who volunteer for us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your work.
You're welcome.
Senator Kunesh?
And I, too, want to express condolences to any of the families that lose their children in this way. I know that our students have to go through a physical before they participate in athletics in the schools. Is the physical that is the expectations of those physicals not rigorous enough? Are there things that could be picked up, like the blood pressure and those sort of things, in those athletic physicals that the students need to take? Just wondering if there are those markers ahead of time that over the course, I think when kids start playing organized sports as a young kid, they're taking physicals almost annually. When or how would those markers start to show up?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Kunesh, thank you very much for that question. That is a completely different topic. Patrick did have 2 sports physicals that he passed. We believe that the current sports physical is not adequate, obviously because my son died. There should be more rigorous testing. There should be things that we do in our heart screenings, such as an EKG at a minimum, but also maybe the limited echocardiogram. But that would be we hope, my wife Gail and I hope, we've been doing this for 9 years, we've had 38 heart screens. We would like to retire from doing this and really have the medical community step up and check our kids out earlier than later. We spend an awful lot of money on end-of-life care. We would hope that sometime in the near future that maybe resources could be shoved towards the beginning of life care to identify these heart conditions and some of these things before and allow people to have a good quality of life.
And Mr. Chair, just one of our earlier testifiers said that there are situations too, however, where someone will have a sudden cardiac arrest and there is nothing wrong with their heart. And so, I think the important thing is for sure, to have these screenings be a bit more rigorous, but having the SERP, and the second part of that is that when those things don't detect a problem or when a sudden cardiac arrest happens for no apparent reason, that the resources are available, that there's a response plan in place, that people have practiced it, that the AEDs are available, that CPR training has been provided, because seconds and minutes count in those instances. And so I would just add that I think it's all of the things that we need to be doing to make sure that our young people are safe.
Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to just thank you. I'm a 04 Eastview grad, and I think my brother might have coached your son when he was really little, because I was thinking before you came up and spoke, I hadn't flipped my paper over to see the testifiers. I was thinking in my head, every kid, certainly who went to a big high school, knows the kid that died from their high school from this. And I was thinking of Patrick. And so I appreciate you coming and sharing his story, because he's not forgotten, even for those of us who graduated before he was there. And so anything we can do to help, I think, is really important. And I think Senator Westlin, I was a co-author on your bill last year, and I'd love to be again this year. And I will have logistical questions later, but I just really want to thank you for coming.
Over my 9 years here, we've met too many parents that suffered a similar loss through a wide variety of afflictions. And if that had happened to me, I'm not sure I could start a foundation. I just don't know if I would have it within me to carry on one of my children's legacy through establishing a foundation, so that what may have happened to my kid through nothing but the roll of the dice doesn't happen to other people. So you have my utmost admiration and respect for the work that you do, and I also hope that we can put you out of business. And so thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members.
Mr. Aronson. And lastly, Ms. Schumacher, when you're ready.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm Roger Arnson. I represent the Minnesota State High School League, and also, as is common in the committee here, testifying on behalf of the other admin organizations, the School Board Association, AMSD, MREA, and MASA, et cetera. And a couple things that we want to add here for you today about the bill. We've looked at the bill closely, and a couple things that I think are important to come out here for. First of all, the Minnesota State High School League and Medtronic actually started a program 17 years ago now called Anyone Can Save a Life. It had to do with the development of AEDs, the distribution of them around the state, and through the years this program actually meets a lot of the requirements that are already set out here in the bill. The AEDs cost anywhere from $1,200 to $3,000. That's kind of the cost in the range there. And as Mr. Chair, I know we have visited with you before about the Minnesota State High School League actually has a foundation. That foundation is funded with an amount of money that would be the equivalent of our annual sales tax liability. And we buy about 30 AEDs for schools around Minnesota annually out of that foundation. A couple things, and as well with the stories that you've heard, we have, and it's an interesting sort of deal, we have a requirement in Minnesota law that when coaches come out that they have 60 credits of training to be a head coach in Minnesota. That's who we regulate, our head coaches. And in those 60 college credits, they have to have training in first aid, and that involves CPR training, et cetera. Now that's when they're entering in. The department does not maintain any ongoing regulations regarding those licenses, those coaching licenses. You know, Mr. Chair, you might be senior enough to remember we used to have the head coach license. We don't have that anymore. And so a decade ago, the State High School League undertook the regulation of coaching licenses. So to be a head coach in Minnesota, you actually have to register with the State High School League, and you have to go through our circular of training, which is a 36-month, continuing with the topics, rolling back. This has been on our list of training. I've actually sat through the presentations, and if you go on the website of Anyone Can Save a Life, in addition to the stories that you've heard here, there are stories of both sides, of people who have passed away and people who have been saved. And there's just a wonderful one about a football coach down in Waseca. His name is Brad Westlin, and in an event that, he was on the sideline after a game and collapsed. And the AED was there, and his life was saved. And he tells the story that if he had made it back to his office to think about the game, and afterwards, he'd have been dead in his office and no one would have found him. So we do that training. We go over those stories. I do think what the committee has found here today is the stories are important. They are as important as the underlying pieces of what we want to do. A couple of things that in the bill that we'd have to talk to the senator and work on, and by the way, this sets up kind of the exclusive but the exclusive emergency action plans certified by the American Heart Association. We may want to look at other emergency action plans and not limit us to that. I think a lot of school districts do that. And so if you're going to do something in this area, I don't think you want to get to where districts have to change what their action plan is. If you look in the bill, it talks about the districts have to consult with athletic trainers. We think you may want to go higher up the chain when it comes to who districts should consult with relative to the programs on this. A couple of other pieces here, specifically in line 3.3, and this relates to the high school league. The line there at 3.4 says the league must ensure that a cardiac emergency response team is present at each interscholastic athletic activity whose control has been delegated to the high school league. We can't do that. We don't have the staff. One thing I would draw the line here for you, and I think that maybe is what the bill was looking at, but we do staff up all of the state tournaments with our staff. And we have trainers and physicians at all of the state tournament games. And they're employed by us. We pay a fee to have them there. As it gets down to the school districts, we actually don't have a requirement that we have athletic trainers at school district events. And this is kind of an interesting piece where a lot of your larger orthopedic clinics staff up the trainers that we have at events. These are a little bit of a avenue to get business into the orthopedic clinics, which have been highly successful with this. And we have gone over that relative to the scope of practice of athletic trainers in the past, some discussion about that. And so we'd have to talk about that. I think you want to be careful about what you require in terms of, this is just a resource piece. What can we afford to do to cover every one of our events? And I know we have a lot, people get paid for their time. And so if teachers are going to be the emergency action team and they're going to be doing 9th grade volleyball, whatever it might be, somebody's going to get paid for that. How are we going to do that? Now, obviously, the bill has some revenue in it and a stream there, but that is something to talk about resources and what gets spent where as we walk through this. We can talk a little bit, as we move on of, what the training should be and what works for Minnesota and what flexibility do you want to give school districts. I do think it makes sense to say that we do have some requirements that people have the CPR training and the AED training. You do need to know how many AEDs are out there. And it may make sense to have something that says people should do an inventory that says how many do they have. We had a bill a couple years ago, and it actually, I think it was going through the Legacy Committee, that talked about having AEDs everywhere, state parks, rest stops everywhere. And I think the tag on that one at that time was about $26 million. This actually, the $2 million, see how far that goes, what we could do with it, if you do have the money to spend that. But it's, there's a lot to this, as we step through it. And there are a lot of programs that are doing very good work out there that I think you want to incorporate them into this as well. And we'll work with the senator as this goes through and see what we can do to raise everyone's comfort level as to what the level of training is out there. Now, one last thing to say, we don't require, just so you know, that the assistant coaches go through all the same training that the coaches go through. Any of you that have had some recent interactions with schools trying to hire assistant coaches. This is a difficult world. We move through those people a lot, and there's a lot of change in that. And in fact, very unfortunately, we've kind of moved to a time where less and less are our teachers being the coaches, and there are people outside that are coming in to be the coaching. It's unfortunate. It's not the model that we like, but that's the world that we live in. And so if we're going to do assistant coaches as well and mandatory on the training, that's going to have some extra cost to it, and we need to analyze what we can do. On the end, the last discussion that you heard about that talked about cardiac screening, this bill does not do the cardiac screening, and that's a very different discussion. That bill has been here a couple of times in the past. You know, what level of cardiac screening should we require of everyone that participates in extracurriculars? Depending on how much money you want to spend, you can do some very extensive screening. So we get into the balance of how much money do you spend. I think Senator Kunesh asked the question, what type of physical exam is required? This is a great debate. We require a physical once every 3 years for athletes that are participating in Minnesota State High School League events. Once every 3 years. And that physical is done by a provider that the parents select. So if you want an MD to do it, as far as the high school league is concerned, that's up to the parent. If you want a chiropractor to do it, as far as we're concerned, if the chiropractor is venturing an opinion that's within his or her scope of practice, that's fine with us. I know that from time to time, our sports medicine committee, which is a very active committee, has said, well, let's ratchet this down. Let's say that that physical can only be done by these people. And you would be surprised the amount of pressure that comes out from a lot of groups. I did I had a rather direct conversation with one of your colleagues last year about who should be allowed to do those physicals, and he said that you know, he was willing to drag the high school league up in front of a committee. I said, well, that's not particularly anything new for us, Mr. Chair. We get dragged up rather routinely, but it just is an ongoing discussion. It's a good thing for you folks to be aware of. It's a good discussion in the context of all of these issues. We think you have an interest in this area. We think parents have an interest. And I have to tell you, our coaches, everyone that's connected this, we have no higher goal than that our kids are safe. Absolutely no higher. So we're going to continue to work with the senator, see if we can't work this out and work out the economics. Mr. Chair, to answer any other questions you might have. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Aronson. Questions or Senator?
Mr. Chair, can I just respond quickly? Thank you. I don't think I've heard from you yet this year.
No.
So it's interesting to sort of have this come at committee. A couple things I do want to say. First of all, the conversation around screening, health screening, screening for sports participation is an important conversation, but it's not what this particular bill is about. And in terms of conversations about CPR training is free. You can get it from the American Heart Association, from the Red Cross. I've had CPR training at various points in my life. It doesn't take a long time to train people. And I did misspeak earlier. So head coaches, as I understand it, then are required to have this training, but assistant coaches and trainers aren't. And it seems to me that making sure that people who are working with our kids, particularly students participating in athletics, have had CPR training seems pretty minimal, and that in and of itself should not be burdensome or costly. And then lastly, Mr. Chair, I would just simply say under the language about the league ensuring that a cardiac emergency response team is present, if we are asking each school to have an emergency response team, it seems to me that the league wouldn't have to be providing anything separate from what the schools already have in place. So love to have a conversation with you, but it's always nice to do that before committee.
I appreciate that. I agree with that point. Yeah.
Senator May-Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Westlin. I was looking at the same thing on 2.5 and 2.6, and I actually had a question because it's identifying members of the cardiac emergency response team at each site who are on duty during the regular school day, and I'm just wondering if we might need to add something to having a cardiac emergency response team and identifying who's there for each athletic event, since who might be on duty during the day and then who might be available for a game might be different people. The one question I had for Mr. Aronson was around locations and kind of getting to Senator Wiesenberg's point about like portable AEDs. I'm trying to think about different, I mean, I was in swimming and softball, so like we were on a field or in a pool. I'm just trying to think about, are there other types of sporting events that might happen in places that I might not be thinking of because I went to one high school and had one experience, but like, is marching band covered by the State High School League? Do some places in rural Minnesota, do they practice places that aren't at the school? Like, could portability work? I just have some of those logistical questions.
Mr. Chair and Senator McQuaid, the bill is cleverly crafted in that sense where it talks about coverage for athletic events. So it doesn't have like the debate team, or it wouldn't be marching band or those sort of pieces. Marching band would not be a state high school league activity. Not uncommon that these devices on fields and that sort of stuff are actually, hardwired into some electrical conduit, whatever it might be, pole, whatever, and made available in that fashion. And that's kind of where we continue to expand the number of them. You heard some prior witnesses talk about donations of them and that sort of stuff. And that's where the extensive coverage starts to happen as we move out into all of those other locations.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarification too, the SERP plan covers any sudden cardiac arrest that happens on the school grounds. It's not necessarily just for athletics or athletic events. This is literally having a team on site so that kids in a classroom studying algebra, which, fun fact, Senator Farnsworth hates algebra. I just thought you mentioned that. But kids in a classroom has a sudden cardiac arrest, this SERP plan covers that. While these things often happen within an athletic context, that this is really to make kids who are at the school, and actually anybody at the school, safe.
Senator Duckworth.
So briefly, Mr. Chair, because Senator Westlin just touched on part of what I was going to elaborate on, because I didn't see that distinction in the bill. But I think, too, one other thing to consider is, and it was kind of mentioned, I think, by Senator McQuaid earlier, is whether it's an athletic activity or not all of them occur on a school site. For example, in the city of Lakeville, the hockey rinks or the city parks aren't necessarily under the school's purview. So you might want to give some consideration to, as we're talking about a plan, I don't want to be overly bearing on a district as they come up with their plan, but you might say, hey, if the mock trial team is going to go have their final tournament at the Minnesota State Supreme Court, some folks should probably give some thought to how they're going to handle an emergency situation if it should arise. Again, nothing overly burdensome, but enough for them to have to give it some thought. Or maybe they're going to Duluth and part of it's going to be at a hotel or something like that. But I think if they're going to put some thought behind a plan, also considering those off-site activities, whether they're sports or what have you, might be helpful as well. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Can you wait? Are you sure? Okay, so I hear you have to leave. So, Ms. Schumacher, no?
Yeah.
You don't have to leave?
No, I don't have to leave. You're,
Oh.
No, I'm not on a time crunch.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think just to clarify another point too, unless I'm missing something, if coaches, the head coaches are already required to do CPR training, they're going to be at all of these athletic events already. So we already have a part of the cardiac emergency response team at all of the events already. So that should not be an extra cost in the way that this bill was crafted.
Thank you, Senator Mann, for your flexibility as well. Go ahead, Ms. Schumacher, and I just give 30-second shout out. How do you become Miss Minnesota as part of your testimony? Because if I don't hear that as part of your testimony, So just maybe when you finish your testimony, which is much more perhaps important.
Yes,
But
I can let
just
you know.
A 30-second little spiel on how one becomes Miss Minnesota.
Sounds good. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Schumacher, and I am honored to serve as Miss Minnesota 2024. Beyond this role, I'm a certified CPR and AED instructor, a future physician, and heart health advocate. My life's mission is to save lives through preventative cardiothoracic care, a calling that began at 15 years old. Since then, I have trained over 4,000 individuals in CPR and AED use and have worked alongside organizations like the American Heart Association, Advocates for Health, and the Patrick Schoonover Heart Foundation. 2 years ago, in my hometown of Mankato, a 19-year-old woman named Faith Larson passed away while playing basketball outside with her friends. While her friends started CPR immediately, the AED that was available to them was locked in the school. Cardiac emergency response plans in schools are critical because sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death in student athletes and can happen to anyone and anywhere. And actually, I want to piggyback off of your comment about algebra. I met a young woman in Portland, Oregon a month ago who was actually taking an algebra test at school and suffered from a sudden cardiac arrest. And because her teachers knew what to do, she's still here today. Survival rates drop by 10% for every minute without CPR and AED intervention. A well-prepared school with a clear, accessible plan to AEDs, CPR training, responders can mean the difference between life and death. This legislation ensures that Minnesota schools are ready to act when seconds matter most. I've seen firsthand how education and preparation saves lives. We have the opportunity to take action and make Minnesota a leader in student heart safety. I appreciate your time and consideration for this bill, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you so much. Now to tell you how to become Miss Minnesota. Well, you have to earn a local title first. So I was actually Miss Mankato, and so you do a private interview, onstage question, evening gown, and then fitness. So I model like a fitness wear. And then you go on to Miss Minnesota and compete at Miss Minnesota. And now that I'm Miss Minnesota, I went on to Miss America. And I went in January and actually placed in the top 10.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Members? Thank you for making this your life mission. Senator McQuaid to the bill. And when Senator McQuaid's done, if you want to wrap up with your final comments, and I got a thing to share as well.
Well, thank you, Senator Westlin. I think to piggyback back off of Senator Duckworth, piggybacking off of me, and your point about this being really preparedness for school and on-school grounds is really well taken. And I do think there might be, it kind of goes back and forth between like being on site during the school and like during the school day and then athletic events, which almost never happen during the school day. And so I wonder if there maybe is just like a few extra delineation pieces about on the school day, school grounds, here's the cardiac response team, and then like at an athletic event, here it is. And it could be something as simple as, you know, you have the head coach, but maybe it's designating 2 other people. And so maybe it's just, you know, at all times there has to be that team and they know who they are. Like you talk about it before each game or whatever. I think that was it. The only other thing I was thinking of too is, so like if Eastview was playing Apple Valley, Eastview people would know where the Eastview stuff is because it's their home game. But if somehow like Wayzata and Hopkins came to Eastview to use the field, just making sure that they have the information on where things are so that it's shared for, you know, random circumstances like that. I don't know why Hopkins and Wayzata are coming to Eastview, but if they ever do, we'd want to be good hosts and we want to tell them where the AED machines are. Those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Senator Wiesen.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not trying to make this funny, but you could maybe even create an app for that. So then you could just be right there. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to thank the testifiers that are still here testifying on this bill today. There's this line in the Hebrew Talmud that says, he who saves one life saves the world entire. And I think that your efforts are tantamount in bringing that that phrase to the forefront of my mind right now. So I just want to thank you, Senator Westlin, for bringing this bill forward. And do you have any final comments?
I know we're running out of time, so everyone has said everything, and not everybody has to say everything that's already been said, other than, I think all of us are here because we care so deeply about ensuring that our kids are safe, and this seems like a pretty easy thing to do, to make sure that there are appropriate personnel that can intervene in one of these emergencies. And sadly, too many people die from this. And I think that where we can do something that is pretty easy, we should do it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator McQuaid moves that Senate File 1457 as amended be recommended to pass and be sent to Education Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Lastly, our next meeting will be on Wednesday at 12:30. We'll be hearing a walkthrough on the governor's education policy bill, and we're planning on hearing Senator McQuaid's Senate File 197. So looking forward to seeing the governor's bill on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for attending today, and we are adjourned.